All right, everyone. Here we are again. Oh, mercy. I'm Lance Ash, and this is Bonnie.
Hello.
And now
What's this
we're.
called?
The show is called Nothing But Worry,
There we go.
but the sentiment is nothing but that.
Yeah, we had a good day.
Yeah, we did. About an hour and a half ago, our daughter and her boyfriend just left. We had them over for Chinese takeout, and we had a big, nice talk afterwards.
And
Sort of, yeah, sort of rambling, discursive conversation.
touching on a million different subjects and a nice, what do you call it, a round robin of conversation.
Yeah, that was the most I think that I personally have been able to draw him out.
Exactly, me too. Before we've had them over with my parents, and my stepmom kind of wiggles in a little bit much. And my dad has had some conversation because they're both techies and such. And then Peter will also interject himself. So for us, this one-on-one exchange was something new without other factors. Peter didn't come home until 8 o'clock. So that gave us a couple of hours with them solo. And even then, Peter wanted to come in, shower, and eat. So he didn't interject much, and then he went to bed.
Well, not but a few minutes after they showed up, out of the blue, Bonnie suggested that I sort of show Andrew through my CD collection.
Yeah.
Amazingly, it didn't even occur to me. So that gave me 6-7 minutes just to run my mouth to him, and
Reed and I
it's
were
sort
able
of
to get everything on the table during that time, and you guys
right. It's
got
sort
a
of
good exchange going.
it's sort of allowed me to break my own personal ice with him, and
You guys were able to relate, and he knew some of the bands you knew, and
he mentioned some things I'd never heard of. He said that he liked progressive metal when I brought it up, so that was interesting. And Chinese food, I've lost my taste for it, to be honest with you. The egg rolls were fine. They forgot to give us the mustard, but we discovered that the Coleman's mustard from Britain tastes pretty damn near the Chinese mustard that they give you anyway, and it's fresher.
it's just a shame we're not going to be able to buy it anymore. They've already pulled the online offerings.
You know, now that you mention that, that's going to be interesting to see what Buford Highway Farmers Market is going to look like.
Yeah,
Because, I mean,
post-tariff.
that place is nothing but imported goods. And that's a good reason for us to really stock up when we go up there. If the prices aren't too high, because I mean, most of that stuff is already on the shelves up there. It'll be the stuff that comes down the line 6 months from now, you know.
When I was placing my weekly order with Walmart today, I noticed that Walmart's already jacked up the price on one notable thing. Ramen has gone from 20 cents a pack to 30 cents a pack. And you know what's on those shelves was not something that's been in any way affected by tariffs. So,
Yeah. Somebody last night online mentioned exactly what I said, which is that these corporations are going to take the opportunity to sneak in another 1, 2, 3% of a rise, so they can, increase the profits just a little bit more under cover of, the tariff excuse.
well, I mentioned to Andrew and he agreed. I went to these sites. We repeatedly buy certain things online because we just don't have access to them otherwise. And I went online to see, if anything had changed because our previous orders are there with the invoices for the prices. And I kept getting 404 notices. They had been yanking out the Indian and the UK things. And I suspect that what's happening is they're pulling them because they don't know what price it's going to be. And it's possible they're going to hold on to these things that they bought at January and February prices and hold on to them for a month or two. And when the tariffs are really rising, they're going to double the price easily because people are going to be without. And they're going to go, oh, I really want the Coleman's mustard. I really want my ginger paste.
Well, I wanted when we're going to be going up to the Beaufort Highway Farmers Market in about a month, and I really wanted to get a big jar of gochujang. But who knows? I mean, if it's $7 a jar, I'm not going to do it. You know.
There are some essentials, like the ginger paste. I'm going to have to find ways to get that. Right now, I have been buying it in a jar that is 4 times what you find in the produce department in the tubes. And it's at a really good price. And now I can't find it online. I'm I'm concerned. We're going to have to find some alternatives, and fortunately, we have learned to be versatile over the years. One of the things that we have heard again and again is, "You're vegetarians, but what do you eat?" Usually this comes from the meat and potatoes crowd. And as vegetarians, we are forced to look at other sources for protein, and we're forced to look at the way that we season our things and to look at other cultures and cuisines for options and ideas. And it's forced me to learn to be I think, a good cook. What do you think?
Yes, you are a very good cook and a very good baker as well.
So we're going to adapt. We're going to figure it out. I had really hoped that our May trip would be a blowout where we could just, stock up on a lot of things. But now, I mean, what is it? 25% tariff on India, 50% total tariffs on Chinese goods. Japan's got 25 plus or something percent.
I don't know.
UK's got another 10%. EU's at 20%. So
This whole thing is just a fiasco, and
it's so stupid. And it all has to do with Trump's fucking ego. He wants to be the one who makes all the decisions and wants to say that he's smart and a very stable genius. He's a fucking moron.
yeah.
At least we had a good night and we avoided a lot of the politics tonight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm trying to think. What else?
What, this week?
No, just what else there is to talk about. Um. Hmm. I can't. I called my mother to do the weekly talk. Couldn't get her, so I left a little message, and she called back accidentally immediately, and didn't want to talk because she assumed that because I'd mentioned in my message that
Reed was coming over.
our daughter was coming over, that I didn't have time to talk, but I did have another half an hour. My sister sent me an email saying that she had fallen and hurt her knee, so she had to have surgery. These are news events of vital importance that I must convey to you, the anonymous YouTube audience.
But it's just part of the things that add to our week in review and all the
That's
worry.
right, yeah.
I think the thing that bothered me the most this week were the tariffs and how absolutely incredibly stupid they were.
I'm not really worried about it.
I am, because I'm the one who has to balance the books. Andrew and I were talking about budgets tonight. And he is allowed to buy gas at work at discounted prices because the petroleum company he works at has pumps on site for their fleet. And he can just scan his employee badge and do it. And he said that he likes a fixed amount in his payroll, and he doesn't want to have to parse whether or not they charged him correctly and the best rates and all this kind of stuff. And I thought that was very interesting. But when I was looking at the budget this week, I realized just how much our spending on groceries has gone up. I'm not going to tell you because you'll go, no, I don't want to hear it. Because, that's my job to worry about these things. You're all the time saying, what? Don't worry. I'm like, you're the one that put all of this on me. I have to handle all the paperwork. I have to handle all the secretarial functions, all the financial functions. And so this bullshit news week has really upset me at a lot of different levels. And I got an email saying that our retirement account was up for review, etc., I didn't want to open the email. I didn't want to view it because I didn't want to see, you know, where we're balanced in the distribution of the things, because you're allowed to choose what you invest in and such in percentages. And I didn't want to see losses. Back in, what was it, 2012, the housing crash and all that, I remember your mom telling me that Doyle was really upset because his retirement account, he had been playing the market heavy. She was always a safe investor in hers. And Doyle had been playing the market. And he'd lost, I don't know, 20, 30% or something. A friend of mine in Orlando, he said he lost over half at that point. And we're going to get hit so hard on things that we really don't have much control over. Because we're not one of those people that has, you know, access to a broker on a regular basis, and we can't go sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, you know. We don't have access to inside information like the congressmen, all the politicians. So these kind of things do bother me immensely.
Yeah. Well, I have made some changes to what I'm doing with my artwork.
Oh, yeah.
I've decided to go in my painting. I've always had a sort of notion that the paintings are pretend illustrations, and that's been a concept that informed what I painted, how I painted.
Now, you've actually called your painting a cartoon style at certain times.
Yeah, but I've decided to go completely in that direction because my work has been influenced by commercial art and illustration and cartoon art for years. But two things. First, I discovered Natalie Pudilov, who does really interesting illustrative work for a lot of European children's books, and leaving a space on the painting for the words to go. And I've decided to go completely in that direction. So I've turned my canvases landscape orientation and putting the bulk of the composition on one side and leaving a space open for text. So
We'll overlay that text right on the after photograph.
You got my email last night about about the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So I won't be posting the paintings one by one. When I finish out each discrete unit of work, we'll just put it all out there as if it's an unpublished book. A lot of her stuff on her website says unpublished. So it was meant to be a book, but never made it into that form. But anyway, and the other thing is, I was looking at a lot of concept art. I'm not a video game person at all, but on Pinterest I found a lot of concept art for different video games, and it really opened my mind up to distorted figures and crazy looking machines and monsters and furniture and spaceships and stuff, which a lot of my stuff, that's the little doohickeys that are in the background scenery of my paintings, they're like that anyway. So I thought, it's yet another permission slip to do what I want anyway. So I'm combining the two things, and we're going to be doing some. I want to start off with doing rhyming nonsense couplets as the text, but maybe down the line might expand that to more. I like the idea of doing nonsense poetry. Sort of Dr. Seuss, Edward Lear, Ogden Nash type stuff. And I've done nonsense prose for years, decades. I have whole novels I've written that are just nothing but gibberish. And so that's the idea. And I feel really, I just, as soon as I made the decision and started doing this project, started doing this work, I had, sometimes you just know when you've made the right move. I had this feeling of positivity and optimism and confidence about the whole thing wash over me. And it's such a good feeling when you're an artist to know that you know what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And it's just such an affirmation of your own being when you've made it the right move, when you've made a positive step. And so I'm working on the first illustration for this little project. It's going to be 20 paintings with the idea that each half of the painting is a page. So it's you're basically working on a 40-page book with 20 illustrations, 20 pieces of text. And I'll tell you something else. Oh, my knee is killing me. There is a book by Arnold Lobel from the 70s called The Ice Cream Cone Coot and Other Rare Birds. And it's where he took common everyday objects and imagined them as if they were birds, and then wrote
a feather duster, an iron.
Right, a gramophone.
Exactly.
And decide, and what if they were birds, and drew these things with beaks and feathers and wings and eyes,
and then silly little situations,
silly little rhymes.
Yeah.
You know, this bird plays records and blah 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 blah. You know, and it's a little rhyming couplet, and that's where I got most of this idea from. So it's gonna be like that, and so.
You know, a moment ago you were talking about how you gave yourself permission to do something, and we were talking about that earlier this evening with Andrew and Reed. When you grow up, when you're growing up, everybody has to give you permission. You have to get the hall pass, and you have to be in bed by a certain time. You can't eat certain foods, or you can only have treats when. And there comes a time where you go, I'm giving myself permission to do this. And it really is an act of adulthood. And as I was listening to you tonight, I was reminded of a terribly sad interaction with your mother. Years ago, Catherine Hoover was helping her with her house. And Catherine recognized my skill for that sort of thing too. And she and I were talking one day, and she goes, Jane just doesn't have any ideas of her own. And I can just do whatever she wants. I say, do you like this? Do you like it? She goes, I don't know what I like. And I asked her about that later. I said, tell me about this, and what kind of things do you like? I don't know. At some point or another, your mother never learned to take the initiative and do things on her own, to be creative on her own, to find out what she liked.
She never felt that she had the right to say, well, I like this, no matter what you damn well say. You know, it's always, well, maybe what I like is wrong. Maybe it's morally wrong. Maybe it's aesthetically wrong. Maybe it's not, good taste. Or
what she opted for instead was to mimic what was in fashion, what was presented to her. When John, her son-in-law, was selling marble countertops, they had some knockoff pieces, and he knew he could just foist them off on them, and, they would suck up the loss, They would just pay him to get rid of this excess inventory. And so they ended up with these hideous black marble countertops in their kitchen. And I remember them coming in and installing this crap that were leftover slabs from other projects and things they couldn't sell on. And I thought, my God, he really took advantage of her. But your mom would look at what you're supposed to do, and while she dressed nicely and neatly and prim and proper, she didn't even dare accessorize it outside of the norm, Mm-hmm. She would only buy the things that she was told went with that. The necklaces, hell, for the last 20 years, I've seen necklaces go through all these different phases. But your mom was always a simple gold chain with a simple circle attached to it. She wouldn't even add a heart. She had that lack of imagination. A circle on a circle. And the rings, her wedding band, that was it. You know, I mean, I'm not big on jewelry myself. I understand that. But she wasn't willing to accessorize anything. She has had the same furniture since they basically moved in, and she hired Gene Fleming to come in and decorate. She has these fake plants on top of the television console, and they've been up there for 20 years. And they're just covered with dust, and they are ugly. I mean, hideously ugly things. And they were okay at the time. They were whatever was in fashion being pushed down the line at, big box stores. But they didn't even upgrade their TV,
Yeah. I remember long time ago, come June, I will have been playing the guitar for 35 years. I was 16, so this would have been June of 86.
God, that was a long time ago.
39 years? Anyway, the point is, I could never sing and play the guitar at the same time. And I wanted to learn to write songs and sing them while I was playing the guitar. And I remember, we were married, and I remember strumming on the acoustic guitar and not being able to open my mouth. And it was like there was a mental block, and not being able to actually make sounds come out of my mouth because I had this block. And that original guitar, that Yamaha that I bought when I was 16, I smashed it drunk one day. And a couple of years went by and I didn't have an acoustic guitar. And Bonnie bought me a guitar to replace it a couple of years later. She was working for these people and they had a guitar for sale. And when I got it, somehow the block had gone away. And I remember for the first time being able to suddenly sing while playing the guitar. And I don't know how it happened, but it was similar to the moment when you decide, I'm going to paint a picture and I'm going to paint whatever the fuck I want, or I'm going to dress how I want,
But there was something after that. I noticed that the voice that you used when you sang wasn't you. It felt like you were trying to put on a voice that you thought you should have. And for several years, I kept pestering you. I said, be more natural.
Well, I would sing too high.
Yes.
And when I began...
you wouldn't sing in your register. And at some point or another, you shifted over and I went, yes.
Well,
That's right. See, when I was growing up, and I swear it's true of all generations of little girls, you think you're supposed to be this high soprano, when in fact you're this alto, and you have this little airy-fairy affectation where you're almost breathy. And every little girl goes through it until she comes into her own and realizes, one, give it up, and two, find your own voice. It took me being in chorus and then finally having Bamford push me onto stage and go talk through your singing, to find what I truly sound like. I'm not a great singer by any means, but it's natural for me now when I choose to sing.
Well, for a long time, I felt I couldn't sing with enough volume unless I was singing high. And over time, you learn to sing with more volume at a lower register. And yeah, so that, but as I was saying, a lot of this is just learning to do what the hell you want and do it the way you want.
It's like what I've said with cooking. You and I were discussing the other week how when I first tried out vegetarian cooking, it was like, okay, we got to go and do the Moosewood cookbook, and it was like, ew, what is this? It was too hippie, grainy, and boring and weird and stuff. And it's taken me years to find out, to understand, read about it, and experiment, experiment, experiment. Reed was very lucky that she had the opportunity to help me out in the kitchen. And when she went out on her own, I thoroughly encouraged her to completely ad lib when it came to cooking. And she was able to do it because I was able to teach her, you start with a good base. Understand your base flavors and go from there,
Well, talk about the stuff you made this week. Was it the mushroom stroganoff with the egg noodles?
Yes, yes. So you and I grew up with beef stroganoff, and most of the beef stroganoff recipes we had mushrooms in it. So it just seemed natural that you would be able to make a mushroom stroganoff, but without meat in it. And I had done it before, and it was okay. But now that I've had to change and no longer use dairy, I've had to modify recipes that I had before, and balancing out vegan replacements can be problematic at times. I was telling Reed tonight that the Scottish shortbread that I make, it's sugar, flour, and butter. You can't use vegan butter. It just tastes terrible. Leaves a weird aftertaste. So I knew that when I was experimenting with these things, that I was going to have to gently add it in with a little bit, see how it worked out, how it balanced. And I knew that I may end up having to throw it out, that batch with the vegan, and use the rest of the batch with your sour cream regular. But when I first started looking for basic mushroom stroganoff years ago, I went and I started looking at all the different types of recipes available. Some used white wine, some used sherry, but all of them started off with an excellent onion base and then add in the garlic. And this stuff I made this week, you went nuts for it.
Yeah.
And then I made it a second time, and I added textured vegetable protein that I had made. I would normally have bought TVP from Morningstar. It's seasoned, but it's gotten to be $6 a pound. And I can still get tofu for around $2.20. And so I went online and I started looking at vegetarian options for making your own TVP, and then for making TVP flavored as ground beef. And I just came up with a great little combination. I sat there and I mixed up things that I thought would be right together. And that TVP texture stuff that I made on my own, it took an hour because I had to keep turning it over in the stove as it cooked down. And it worked out beautifully.
Yeah, and I dumped smoked paprika all over mine, and
Because that's what you do.
It tasted fantastic together, and so she sent me to work with it, and this huge container, and as soon as I took a bite, I was like, "Oh my God, I have to force myself to not eat all of this."
You went a couple nights this week with the mushroom stroganoff, and I made it twice within the last 2 weeks. So you've had a lot. But it worked out really well. I was very pleased. What I have not done much of this week is make homemade bread. So I've got to make a batch of that tomorrow.
Yeah. You haven't made yeast gravy in a while either.
I did make something similar the other week.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know. It had yeast in it. I know that.
I have been using the nutritional yeast a little more, like I've been making my own mushroom gravy for the baked potatoes. And between the soy sauce, the umami mushroom powder, and nutritional yeast, soy sauce, etc., it really came together beautifully. It reminded me of what I was able to get back at the Western Steer years ago.
Western sizzling.
Western Sizzling, there we go.
Yeah, they had mushroom gravy.
God, that stuff was good.
You you haven't made challah in a long time.
Oh, it has to do with the fact that I don't have a bread machine anymore, and I don't have a dough mixer at any level. Challah is one of those stretchy things. You stretch the bread as you braid it, and it adds to the texture of the bread. But the dough has to be turned, kneaded out several times in rises, and also it contains eggs, and we have not been using eggs.
Do you think my mother would give you her Kitchen Master mixer, those big industrial ones? You know what I'm talking about? The heavy duty ones.
The ones that sit on the countertop?
Yeah.
I could ask Catherine. I mean, Catherine came to the household with all that kind of stuff because she was.
It's probably still down there at the house right now because I
We
can't.
could see. I will just have to ask when they come back in town in May. I forgot. When is Catherine Shindig here in relation to us leaving town and
I can't remember.
Reed and Andrew leaving town and
I can't remember, but
I mean Peter's gonna be here.
I think it was in April, or no, it wouldn't. Couldn't have been.
May, I thought.
Is that when they're coming back?
I think so.
I can't remember.
But we finally got the grass cut this week. That was a positive thing because the grass had grown up. It's rained endlessly, and thank God it rained because of the pollen.
Yeah. We went to. I took Bonnie to have some blood drawn this morning, and the streets were really empty. There's
Wasn't really
nobody around.
7 o'clock on Saturday morning, yeah. Yeah, we couldn't even run any errands because Fresh Market didn't open till 8. The pharmacy didn't open till 9. So,
I miss the way Athens used to look.
Did you notice that the varsity is completely gone and they started building a parking deck?
I don't know what that is. I would assume it's. Well, maybe, I don't know. A parking deck would be very valuable.
Well, it would be in conjunction with some other kind of thing like a store or an apartment building. Because once they go over an excess of certain amount of apartments, they require parking. And given the land values here, they oftentimes stack them.
Well, it's just that on game days, parking is at a premium around here. And somebody could make a fortune if they had a parking deck. And
But it was set so far back near Lucy Cobb, so far away from the main roads, that I was thinking it was a parking deck.
Well, I was thinking it was going to be apartments.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too, and I'm thinking that they're putting the parking deck on the backside. Those new ones down at the bottom of the hill below Pulaski have the parking underneath. A lot of them do now.
I can't believe all the apartments they've installed right downtown. Downtown used to be shopping mecca, and now that's all gone because, I don't know. Athens was more of a small town back then. Hold on, what?
I'm going to need to take a break. You want to keep talking? You can.
Okay, we'll see. Hold on. All right, we're back after a brief break. Yeah, I can go without Chinese food again for another year or so.
Yeah, it's going to be... That was the last time we eat out for a very, very, very long time. I'm not even going to tell you how much it was.
Thank you. I don't... I've lost my taste for it.
I'll just do the Indian dal soup, the potato samosa mix, some naan, and one other small dish.
Oh
So
dear.
all homemade, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, I'll tell you something. We finished watching the last episode of the latest season of Slow Horses, and I'm surprised. I'm really shocked at how good the show is.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with it.
I saw a recent interview with Gary Oldman on Colbert, and even he said we're living in a golden age of television because the streaming services have opened up so many avenues that weren't available before in television. You can be much more serious now, and
And things aren't episodic. They have arcs, they have seasons with overall storylines, and it changes the dynamic. Years ago, when the kids were young, we used to watch CSI. And we used to watch Law and Order before that. And so you knew that the opening scene was X. They find the body, somebody makes a joke, they do the intro, they do the science, they do the red herring, they redo some science or find new evidence, and then they do the conclusion.
well, not only that,
And
but
it was so predictable that when you try to go back and watch these things now, you're like, why did we ever?
well, yeah, but not only that. In the old days, television shows were structured around ad breaks, and now they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Another thing, in the old days, comedies had to have a laugh track.
Ugh.
And that's all over with now. I can't, as much as I used to like MASH or
But we did
Seinfeld.
get a copy of MASH without the laugh track, and
Yeah.
it made a world of difference. Seinfeld, we had to stop watching because of the laugh track.
yeah, I can't go back and watch a lot of shows I used to watch, used to like, because the laugh track just ruins it. It's like the fucking Flintstones had a laugh track. When The Simpsons first was in production on Fox, the Fox executives wanted them to add a laugh track. Can you imagine? It wouldn't have lasted 2 years. And but anyway, the Slow Horses show is really good, and Gary Oldman's really good in it. I totally forgot that he was married to Uma Thurman.
What?
Yeah,
No, he wasn't.
can you believe that?
What? Gary Oldman was married to Uma Thurman.
Like 2 years, yeah.
I mean, Ethan Hawke was. They get kids together, right?
You can look it up. I don't know.
You gotta be kidding me. I'm having a hard time believing this, man.
I think they were both in a movie together.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah. He was married to somebody
In
else.
what universe?
She's
Fifth
disappeared.
Element universe? I mean, come on. Really? in
She's
what universe?
disappeared off the face of the earth.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know what happens to these people. Or
Ethan Hawke came back a while back. Came back and things. I don't know. You and I honestly are so far out of the loop with movies and releases that when we find something, it's usually several, years down the road. Oh, we're late to the game, so we honestly can't say who is hot and who is not.
well, there's so much crap produced now. You can't keep track of it.
Yeah, I think reality TV is pretty much what turned me off of any type of attempt at regular commercial TV. We would sign on for 1 or 2 shows, burn through those, then go through the next one. But I don't know. I don't think we were ever one of those, well, it's Monday night, this is on. Well, it's Sunday night, this is on. Whereas when we were growing up, the days of the week and the shows you watched all synced up. You know?
Yeah, and that's another
your
thing
life
about.
was centered around these TV shows and getting to stay up late to watch them.
That's right, and that's another thing about streaming.
Yeah.
You're not okay. Well, it's Thursday. That's the only time you can watch so and so, or it'll only be reran one time, or it might be a rerun, and you don't want to see the rerun.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're all like little movies now. I'll tell you something else about Slow Horses that I thought was really good. They're not afraid to kill people.
Oh yeah.
You'll have a character that you thought was a regular, going to be a regular character, gone.
I gotta tell you, the last death of this fourth season. I was a little shocked, but when Gary Oldman is negotiating the payout, for In the Line of Duty, I thought, well, at least they did right by that person's relatives, It was, well, if we're going to kill them off, at least let's make it a little bit easier than we did in the other ones.
I don't like the fact that there's something hanging over the main character now, the way that ended.
Oh,
because
the great revelation.
you know that's going to come back in the next season.
Yeah.
I wish it had all been wrapped up because.
Yeah, bullet in the brain kind of thing. Yeah. There's something to be said for finality, and that will bring about probably a crisis of identity for the main character, or he'll become obsessed with it.
Yeah, I don't like that at all, and I don't like
their fixation on him and their distrust will grow.
And I don't like further and further revelations. You're getting into X-Files territory, folks. You need to watch that.
Jonathan Pryce has been wonderful in this series. We've seen him go from being kindly grandfather, yet old bastard, with great knowledge and understanding and insight, to infuriating senility.
Yeah.
I mean, at points during the fourth series, we were just, stop already, shut up, It was so frustrating, so realistic, and it's something that we have seen. And at one point, I stopped the recording today, and I said, Lance, I need to tell you something. When I was taking care of your mother for those 3 weeks, I had to take her in hand because she started freaking out. And I'm like, Jane, you need to calm down right now. You are not going to spiral. We're going to go look at your meds. We're going to make certain your medicine has been taken, and then you are going to calm down, okay? I want you to close your eyes, stop with the emotional screeching, Yeah. Because there were times when Jonathan Pryce's character was just panicking, aloud, breaking at windows and doors and trying to get out. And
can you believe?
It was so real to watch because I'd seen that kind of emotional breakdown.
Yeah, it's weird thinking back at Brazil now that he was the main person.
In that.
Yeah. I think we're caught up on Bosch Legacy. We're waiting.
There's 2 new episodes out as of Thursday. We can watch that later if you want.
Well, they're not out yet, though.
They are. They came out on Thursday.
Oh, well, we can do it in the morning then. Yeah. There's new in it today we haven't watched yet.
My daily dose of the New York Times
if you don't want to
and the Guardian are such that I'm not quite sure I'm willing to deal with.
Well, if you don't want to watch it, that gives me something to listen to tonight while I'm painting.
Yeah, do that. Go ahead without me.
Okay, listen, we need to wrap this up because I got to get some work done tonight.
I still have another load of dishes to do. I've got to put up the first load because we had soup, we had egg rolls, we had crisp for the soup, we had 3 main dishes, we had sauce, we had hot Chinese tea, we even had the little Chinese oversized soup spoons. I had everything. I've got all this stuff, the Chinese stuff that they bring out at the restaurant. So I've got a lot of dishes to do.
Well, okay, I guess that's it then.
All right. Well, good night, dear.
Good night, sweetie.